What's up, everybody? Couch MILFS here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we gotta break down the patch 4.0 agent tier list so that you know exactly what characters are going to be the most dominant, exactly what characters you should be grinding, and what characters you might want to think twice before you grind and commit to them this freaking act. In 2021, many of you hard grinded to Immortal. But for 2022, I'm gonna need you to hard grind into some bitches, and to help is our brand new Manscaped partnership. Here at GameLeap, we're incredibly selective with the companies that we partner with. But Manscaped sent our whole team the Performance Package 4.0. I've been using their products for a while now, and I'm incredibly impressed that their Weed Whacker and their Lawnmower 4.0 are both waterproof, so you can take care of yourself wherever you are. Now, it's a new year and love is in the air, but most of you are absolutely down bad. But in 2022, Manscaped is here to help. From shampoo to body wash for your everyday use that I've personally used and smells really fucking good, according to my wife, but also lotions and creams that will have you smelling good and looking fresh in the places that truly matter. Stop simping on Twitter and use code MILFS at the Manscaped checkout for 20% off your order and free shipping. Check it out right now at the links down below. Now, the first thing that we gotta talk about is the F tier, and I gotta put agents in the F tier. Even if it's gonna get some people pissed off, that's fine. These are the characters that are definitely the weakest in the entire game, and Riot should look to buff these characters, or they already have, and they are going to release it before too long. Kicking it off with the first character in the F tier, we have Yoru. And I know a lot of you before said Yoru's actually not that bad, he's usable. This person gets value out of him, whatever the case may be. Pro statistics and pick rate across the ranks don't lie. Yoru was just way too weak. And if you don't believe me, just look at how huge the buff he is getting in 4.03 is going to be. If he was already good, he would not get that gigantic of a buff. Yoru is definitely weak in his current state, but thankfully, he's going to get a buff just around the corner. Now, I'm actually putting another character in the FT here, and this one might make a couple people mad, but it's Phoenix. I do have to make a few caveats, though. Phoenix is going to be fine for the majority of the lower ranks in Valorant. He does a lot. He's what we call a jack-of-all-trades character who can really take advantage of AoE, LOS denial, and he has some sustain as well with a very powerful ultimate. But Phoenix has unfortunately been the perfect example of the power creep in Valorant. Now, I don't think the power creep in Valorant has been insane compared to a lot of other games, but it's been a long time, and Phoenix has not got any substantial buffs in the entire time he's been in the game. This leaves him in a state where the new character has abilities that is more powerful than what Phoenix can do. A lot of the duelists in the game are just straight up more powerful at filling their role, and Phoenix has kind of been left by the wayside. I would love to have some of his old nerfs redacted and give him a little bit of a juice up or even more power added to his kit, and I think a lot of Phoenix mains would definitely appreciate some developer love to this awesome character. Now, next up, we actually got to talk about the C tier, and I have two characters in the C tier. It's Brimstone and Omen. And I know what you're going to say. Why are these characters so low? Well, look at the pick rate for any single pro match that has happened pretty recently at all, and you'll pretty obviously see that these characters have fallen down in pick rate every single tournament to the point where they're hardly getting picked at all. Now, the reasoning, Astra does everything that these characters can do and more. Now, one of two things need to happen if you want these characters to actually fight for Astra. You need to heavily buff these characters and give them their own identity so that they can compete with Astra in another way, or you're gonna need to nerf Astra, because right now, if you master Astra, you're at such a higher advantage than mastering Omen or Brimstone, and I cannot suggest you grind Brimstone and Omen. However, I'm pretty confident that some amount of changes are really soon down the pipeline. So if you really feel like grinding Omen and Brimstone, then feel free. There should be changes before too long. But keep in mind that Astra is just pound for pound one of the strongest characters in the entire game right now. And in the controller category, her and Viper are top goddamn dogs. The next time we got to talk about the B tier. There's a lot of characters in the B tier, but these are characters that fill their roles and they do it really well. And on some maps, they're going to be better. Some maps are going to be worse, but let's break it all down. At the bottom of B tier, we actually have Breach. Now, Breach is actually getting quite a bit of love because of how well he plays on Fracture. Specifically, pushing out aggressively and retaking on Fracture is amazing with Breach, and that just makes Breach better and better. On top of that, he can be played on a number of different maps, and in ranked with coordination, he is an amazingly powerful character. I do think Breach is a great character for any duelist or initiator to learn so they can whip him out in the situations where he's good, and he's definitely freaking powerful and can win you a game by himself. Now, next up, we got to talk about the new agent Neon. Now, we don't have a lot of data on Neon, but we can analyze a lot of her abilities and deduce how powerful she's going to be. Unfortunately, compared to characters or other duelists like Jett and Rayna, she doesn't have the same level of out that these characters do. Even Chamber has a hard out, while Neon is all about aggressive momentum. Now, Neon is really powerful and disruptive, but in the pro meta, I don't imagine she's going to make as big of a splash as she is in the ranked meta. Undoubtedly, Neon is going to be in every one of your games, so at the very least, if you don't play the character, you still need to come up with a plan against her, and for all intensive purposes, she's going to be a character that acts like she's in the S tier because you're going to see her all the goddamn time, even if her actual power level is closer to the low A or high B. Now, next up, we actually got to talk about KO. KO has actually been creeping up the meta more and more, and he's a really powerful character as far as getting information, and his flashes, when used correctly, are actually really good for peeking angles and playing that hybrid initiator duelist style of play. I think one of the most powerful aspects of KO is the fact that when you hit someone with your knife, you know exactly who you hit, and you can do a sort of fishing tactic where you throw it along common places that enemies hold, and if you nab someone like the enemy Astra, all of a sudden it's go time, baby. That person cannot pop the stars, you're rushing her ass down. And I do think that KO is actually a really powerful character to climb in ranked with right now this competitive season. The next up in the B tier is actually Rayna. Rayna is a phenomenal character, and if we did only ranked, Rayna would be like top of the S because she has such a high carry ceiling. That being said, she doesn't provide an amazing amount of utility for the team. You're putting a lot of the wins and losses on your own skill, on your own mechanical skill as well. So Rayna is a character that you can live or die by the sword. If you're not top fragging or at least second frag on Rayna, then you're failing your team and you would get a lot more value on another character. I do think that Rayna is very powerful, and on some maps like Icebox, she can go fucking wild. But Rayna is definitely a character you can hard carry with and climb this freaking act. Now, at the top of B tier, we actually have Cipher, and Cipher has a fold in Killjoy, but it's going to be a lot of personal preference and map preference depending on which character you want. Cipher is not going to be as optimal on some of the bigger maps. Think of a map like Breeze, but he's going to be even better than Killjoy on some of the smaller maps depending on your playstyle. I do think that if you prefer Cipher over Killjoy, especially for ranked, you can make Cipher work in a lot of situations, and especially when you put high up retake cameras and you get pretty crafty and creative with a lot of your ability uses, you can pop off on him in any scenario. Now, moving on to the A tier, these are characters that are undoubtedly incredibly powerful, meta, and you need to think about a way to fight against each and every one of these characters if you want to succeed. At the bottom of A tier, we have Chamber. Now, keep in mind, we don't have a ton of data from pro matches with Chamber because Chamber has not been played in a lot of pro matches as of yet, especially at the highest level. That being said, what pro matches we have analyzed, Chamber has been seeing a substantial amount of play, and he seems incredibly powerful for ranked play as well. Between the fact that you get a really powerful first pistol buy in buying that light armor plus those 4 bullets, to carrying on to an operator that can freaking carry round after round for you later on in the game. Specifically for defense, Chamber can be absolutely oppressive and one of the best sentinels, or you're even overlapping with the duelist role in a lot of different scenarios. Chamber is not to be slept on, and is a character that you really have to be thinking about how close he is to his ultimate and adequately playing around an operator that can be whipped out at any time. Chamber is a clutch machine as well, and I definitely would make sure that you are aware of Chamber or you're grinding him yourself. Now, next up in the A tier is Killjoy. Killjoy is in the A tier because she ekes it out over Cipher as far as maps played and power level slightly. She has some of the most powerful abilities in the game. Her ultimate can just win rounds outright, and especially if you're lagging behind a little bit in the mechanics department, Killjoy can definitely apply your game sense directly into game wins. And if you add some mechanical skill on top of that, you're just going to be an unstoppable beast on Killjoy. Next up, we got to talk about Raze. Raze is a character that is very freaking strong. Very interesting how she fights from the duelist category in a way that is fundamentally different than so many of the other duelists. She has mobility, she has AoE damage and burst damage, she has an ultimate that can lock in free kills, and she has information gathering all wrapped in one. Raze is really interesting how she lines up in the meta, and a really great Raze can dominate any ranked game and really demand a certain amount of response and respect from the level of impact and the ways in which you are attacking the enemy team. Now, last up in the top of A tier is Sage. Now, Sage is very flexible in what she offers. She's really strong in the fact that she can heal her team, she can heal herself. Her ultimate is very powerful, and she's a god tier staller. And especially when we don't have characters like Brimstone in the meta right now, between her and Astra, you have a lot of stalling capability. Now, because of the new map changes to Bind, she's not going to be as powerful defensively on freaking Bind, but aside from that, I do think that Sage is still a phenomenal character, and for ranked play, she's definitely one of the best characters you could grind in general. She can support the team, hard carry herself, and she can win you fight after fight. Now, last up, we got to talk about the S tier, and these are the characters that are meta defining. If you are not playing these characters, you have to have a game plan to counteract them, because you're going to go up against these characters in every single game you play. Now, in no particular order, we got to talk about the two controllers in the S tier, Astra and Viper, and I'm going to talk about the differences. So first, Astra has amazing stalling capabilities, and for every map where a single targeted smoke will suffice, where you have a single corner or two angles where you need to smoke those off and that's it, Astra is perfectly fine. Think about a map like Haven, for instance. If you try to push A, you smoke Heaven and you smoke CT and you can push onto site. You don't need a wall or anything like that to get on site, and Astra's perfectly fine. Plus, she adds all this stalling capability on defense that just makes her, like, unrivaled. It's just freaking insane. But on some of the more open maps where you need a way to get on site and cut off the LOS from many different angles, a map like Icebox on B or Breeze in general, that map just needs a Viper, then Viper is going to be favored. However, because of the power level of Astra specifically, a lot of pros are actually defaulting to both Viper and Astra, which might be a completely different, separate issue that needs to be solved from a balance perspective. But combined, these characters can really find a way to get onto any site. Both characters can use their abilities more loosely because there isn't as much pressure to accomplish your quote-unquote controller job. And I actually do think that a Viper-Astra duo is crazy strong right now in general for ranked. So yeah, do with that what you will. But next up in the S tier, we have Skye. Skye did get hit with a huge buff and then quite a bit of nerfs, but she's actually stabilizing to a really nice play. She's very strong. She is one of the only characters that can even come close to doing what Sova can. Sova is just undoubtedly the top of the S tier. Spoiler alert. But Skye is amazing for a lot of reasons. She can pop flash and challenge. She can heal up her allies and make them just fight at a full fighting force. She has a really strong ultimate that can help you fully take site control. The ability to gather information with her flashes and her dog. I mean, you put the package all together and Skye can just do it all. I think she's one of those sleeper characters that can silently carry an entire game on her back. And if you want to be that carrier from the shadows, Skye is definitely the character you should be grinding this freaking patch. Now, next up, we got to talk about Jett. Jett is still insane. She's still so phenomenal. She can take space aggressively with smokes and dashes. She has something that helps her on eco with her knives. Her smokes are versatile in the way that you can use them to cover up a silver recon dart or to block the LOS temporarily of a corner as you push in and take space. Jett is a very powerful character. On attack, on defense, she can op better than any character besides Chamber. She's just like the ultimate duelist. When you're feeling yourself on Jett, you can be absolutely unstoppable. And I think one of the biggest sleeper reasons why she's so strong is with tons of eco weapons, she gets exponentially more value than any other character would. Whether it's a marshal, whether it's a sheriff, whether it's a freaking shorty or a judge, it doesn't matter. Jett is going to get more impact on average with all of these guns. And for all those reasons combined, Jett is the second best character in the entire game. And you already know what the best character is. We talked about it before. It's freaking Sova. And really, if we took out the pick rate from Split, because Sova sees very little play from pro perspectives on Split, Sova would just have like a near 100% pick rate because he is insanely powerful on like every single map. And I actually think that he could be very powerful on split if you learn the right lineups. Now, this is a character that it takes a special breed in order to grind, right? You have to learn so much on the character. You have to be willing to go practice in the training room. You have to put your time and effort and treat Sova like a goddamn college class. I mean, really, you are a Sova student or an average Jonas student, but in reality, Sova's that character where if you are really, really dedicated, you can have more impact than any other character in the entire game. And he is so strong that he literally shapes the entire meta around him. And specifically, when we talk about characters like Viper, the only legitimate counter to fight back against, you know, just a proactive flash plus wall and push onto site is a recon dart, man. It's one of the most efficient and best ways to fight back, retake, gather information, take a site. I mean, it's just amazing. So yeah, if you need a character to grind Sova. And all of you, every single one of you, should always have the idea in your mind that a Sova dart can come flying at the speed of goddamn light and hit the wall above, on top of your head behind you. So if you have that in the back of your mind always, and you can flip and shoot that at a moment's notice, you're going to, you know, win a lot more games just because you can do that. So definitely keep all that in mind and let me know where you agree and disagree with my tier list in the comments down below. And while you're there, go to the GameLeap website where we break down in depth every single agent in the entire game. So if you want to be a god tier Jett or a freaking clutch up chamber, you got to go check it out right now down below.